speak this evening at short notice. It was only this morning that I was asked to do so. And I said I will accept on the condition that people ask me some questions. Because the last time I was here, it was very difficult to get questions out of you. And when that happens, I think to myself, have I explained things so clearly that everyone understands perfectly already? Or what is it? Have I bored them to, death? So I wonder if anyone has a question to start us off with. Yes. Where's James? He's the one responsible. He's absent. Chabut. Very well. I will begin with a little poem that I wrote some years ago called Time. People talk a lot about time. Very often we hear people say, "Bo eng," not free, got no time. They really don't know what they're saying. The truth of such a statement. So here's my poem. Yesterday has gone, just like a dream. Tomorrow never comes. I'll start again. Yesterday has gone, just like a dream. Tomorrow never comes. What time have we to call our own? The present is like a bubble on the water. Grasp it, and it's gone. Are not our hands always empty? Swept along endlessly, becoming old against our will. Where are we going? Do you have time? Think again. Perhaps it is time that has you. If we had time, we could prevent ourselves from growing old, getting sick, and dying. But we do not have time. We have no choice about it. It is inevitable that we grow older even if we do not get old. And very, very few people can go through life without getting sick of something or other. And no one, absolutely no one, gets out of this life alive. I was recently asked how to comfort and counsel people on their deathbeds. And I was reminded about how people of a certain other religion will flock to the deathbed of dying people and promised them salvation if they will convert. And many people do convert on their deathbeds because they think, I've got nothing to lose. They are so uncertain when the end comes and filled with fear that they will convert. Not through understanding, but through fear. I had an American friend some years ago who was a Buddhist, had been a Buddhist for quite a number of years. And she was teaching in Germany. When I was in America in 1985, I got a letter from her saying that she was in hospital with a tumor on her spine. She didn't say it was cancer, but of course you always fear the worst. So I called her up and asked her, "How are you?" She said, "I'm fine. I'm dying. The doctors have just given me a few months to live." She was quite cheerful at that time and able to joke about it. So I said, "All right, I'm coming." So I cut short my trip in America and went to Germany to visit her. And I wasn't surprised when I walked into her room in the hospital to find her emaciated, with almost as little hair on her head as myself. But she was still quite lucid. Now, I was given a room in the hospital there, Catholic hospital. They treated me very well. They were very kind to me and provided me with food also for a nominal sum. And so I spent hours each day at the bedside of this dying friend. Unfortunately, at the end, when help was available in the form of Dharma, she couldn't use it, or she wouldn't use it. She had been a Buddhist for many years, but she'd never gone really deeply into the study of Dharma. She'd spent her time on such things as save the whales, and so on. And so, at the end, when I wanted to strengthen her and encourage her with Dharma talk, it wasn't welcome. She was afraid. And when she knew that I was approaching this dreaded topic of death, she asked me to stop. It was of no use to her. Life is uncertain, and each one of us is going to face the end on our own. No one can do it for us. The time to think about it is not when it's near, but when we are young and strong and healthy and alert. To think about our inevitable end. Then we may be able to say, like one of Shakespeare's characters, "O death, where is thy sting?" Only if we are willing to face it and realize that is going to happen to us sooner or later, and sooner than we think. We think so much about ourselves. And by so doing, our fear of the inevitability of death increases. But it's amazing, it's very interesting to think about when Prince Siddhartha himself went out of the palace to see the town and saw the sights, the old person, the sick person, and the dead person. He was shocked and asked, "Can this happen to me?" Wouldn't you think that's rather a naive question? That he would have thought about this before and realized, as a bodhisattva long, long before, that of course it will happen to him. Why did he ask this question as a bodhisattva? A bodhisattva is still subject, like we are, but perhaps not in the same degree, to fear of self. Can this happen to me? Can it happen to my wife? But we have got such an idealistic expectation or picture of a bodhisattva that we cannot possibly imagine that he could feel such low emotions as fear. Yes, it can happen to you. A lot of our practices, our religious practices, are done from fear. The fear of not attaining something if we don't do them. I think it's very interesting if we examine ourselves and our motives for doing whatever we are doing, and to observe the fear for self there, and the desire, and the grasping, and the attachment. They don't immediately go away because of that, but at least we will have acknowledged them, their existence. And fear has the effect of magnifying things, pain especially, out of all proportion. We are not the only one who is going to die. All around us, there are people dying every minute, every second. In fact, we're dying ourselves right now. The moment we were born, we began to die. It's a slow process. We are part of something much bigger than we ourselves. And if only we wouldn't think in such a narrow and selfish way, but realize
you know, we're part of something bigger. It would make it easier. The fear would diminish, especially of things that are inevitable and unavoidable. The fear would diminish. Fear has created so many concepts and beliefs and religions to strengthen us and console us. To some extent, they serve a useful purpose. But we become attached to these things and forget that they are means. And they become the end. Become more important than the end itself. It is like the finger that points at the moon in Zen terminology. Most of us never see what the finger is trying to indicate. We only see the finger itself. Oh, very interesting finger, nicely shaped. We never see beyond it. So these things, these concepts and beliefs and religions become trap. We get stuck, never go beyond. And we get sidetracked from the real task as human beings, to discover what it means to be human. We have somehow reached this condition of being born human, of standing erect on 2 feet, instead of like the other animals on 4 feet. We stand erect. This is one of the things that distinguishes us from the other animals. But more important than this is the capacity to reason and choose. To take our evolution, our spiritual evolution, not our physical evolution, in hand and choose which way we want to go. We have so many choices. So we are part of something much bigger than we ourselves. We have our own individual karma, but we also have collective karma or group karma, family karma, national karma, racial karma, species karma, global karma. Yes. So we can understand ourselves only in context, not separate, not isolated, only as part of the greater life. And we're moving together. somehow, not separately. Humanity is not very old, perhaps 5 million years. And in terms of geological time, this is very young. The birds and the animals are still living, more or less, as they were living hundreds of thousands of years ago. They have adapted to certain conditions in order to survive. Darwin called it the survival of the fittest. They adapted. But we have adapted much more rapidly. In some ways, however, we have not kept up with the rapid change. And life, the tempo or the pace of life, has increased tremendously within the last few years. Venerable Dhammananda was saying to me just a few minutes ago that when he first came to Malaysia 40 years ago, there were no such things as traffic circles or traffic lights. They had only signs saying, stop, look and go. The pace of life has increased tremendously. In one way, in some ways, we have adapted to this, but in other ways not. And in some ways, we are living in caves, mentally or spiritually. Our views of the world, of many people that is, have not been updated. They're outmoded. Little children can teach me such things as about computers. I'm not really ashamed to say that I'm computer illiterate. Well, maybe that's not true. I've got a personal computer and it still works quite well. There are things that our young people know that the older generations do not know. And it's always like this, perhaps in every generation. And so knowledge increases. But does wisdom increase accordingly? Are we any wiser now, in general, than people were hundreds of years ago? We're better educated, we have more knowledge, but are we any wiser? Not necessarily. There have been wise people in the past, very, very wise people. There are wise people now. But in general, are people wiser? Perhaps in some ways we are more ignorant, because the knowledge that we get in schools and universities is not true knowledge. In fact, sometimes it is just ignorance disguised, because we are not shown how to use this knowledge for the benefit of others. And therefore it becomes very easy to use it for self, misuse it. It is very dangerous. We have too much knowledge and not enough wisdom. This is our problem. And our knowledge does not make us happy. It makes us more frustrated, more discontented, but discontented in a negative way, not in a positive way, in a selfish way, not in an altruistic way. There is positive discontent as well as negative discontent, but most of us don't know much about the positive discontent. We only know the negative discontent. When Siddhartha was living in the palace as a prince with all the luxuries and pleasures that money could provide at that time, sometimes he could be seen sitting quietly alone in the garden. And if asked, is something wrong? Are you not happy? He would have said probably, no, there's nothing wrong, and I'm not unhappy. But he couldn't say why he should be sitting alone like this. He felt that his life there was incomplete, that there was more to life than what he knew inside the palace walls. He was discontented, but not in a selfish way, wanting more for himself. He was discontented because he felt that life was much more than what he knew. And finally, as you all know, he left the palace and went off into the forest, and eventually became enlightened. And we are here like this right now because of that, because of his positive discontentment. It didn't allow him to remain in the palace and enjoy himself. Had he remained there, he could have been a very good husband to his wife, a very good father to his son, a very good ruler, but his influence would not have lasted very long, and we probably would not even have heard about him. He would have faded into history, forgotten. But as it was, his influence has extended throughout time and space, covering the whole earth for so long. Such positive force, because he was positively discontented. So, discontentment is a very powerful force. And we can turn it around from being negative to positive. What are we doing with our lives? Are we living just for ourselves, or do we think we are living just for ourselves? If so, this is a delusion, because it is simply not possible to live just for ourselves. Not possible at all. We live for others too. Because what we do is affecting others. Our actions, our words, our thoughts affect others. They have an immediate effect in the world around us. We can see this, even if we do not believe in the law of karma. That is, that our actions actions will return to us in one form or another. We can see that a stone thrown into a pond will produce ripples which will spread outwards. If this stone is sufficiently large, the ripples that it causes will rebound from the edge of the pond or the lake and come back to the place where the stone entered the water. But if the stone was only small and the pond was large, the ripples would only have a slight effect and would not even reach the edge of the pond, let alone return to the place of origin. But we can see that there is an effect immediately. There was once a man whose mother was very ill. So he went to the temple to ask the monk there, "Please pray for me and my mother." The monk said, "All right." But just to make sure, he also went to the church and he asked the priest to pray for him and his mother. "All right," said the priest, "I will." To make doubly sure, he also went to the mosque and he asked the imam to pray for him. "All right, I will." Then he went to the Hindu temple too, asked the Brahmin priest there to pray for him. "All right." Unfortunately, his mother didn't recover, but died. So he went back to all these places, Buddhist temple, Catholic church, the mosque, Hindu temple. "I asked you to pray for me, and nothing happened. My mother died anyway." And the monk said to him, "I'm very sorry to hear that your mother died, but you cannot say that nothing happened. All these people you asked to pray for you were with you in spirit, sharing your sorrow and your trials." He did not get what he was expecting or hoping for, but there was an effect. There's always an effect to our actions, whether we see it or not. I am frequently asked, what is the purpose of life? And I have to say, I don't know. Or, I don't think life has a purpose. Or maybe the purpose of life is simply to live. I think it is we who give meaning to life by our living. But this is something that we have to discover for ourselves. There is a price for being alive. There are conditions. One of them is pain. We cannot live life without pain of some sort. But we can look at pain in different ways. Some people are better able to stand pain than others. My father was never able to stand pain. slightest pain, he would complain. So we got so used to this, it was really difficult to tell whether he was really in pain or not. And when he was really sick, we thought, oh, maybe he's just, complaining again. Very difficult to know. So different people bear pain in different ways. If we're able to look at pain philosophically, realizing that it's part of being alive, then we shall be more in control of pain rather than allowing pain to control us. And if we know how to focus our attention, we can turn it away from focusing on the pain to other things. And it's quite amazing how much pain we can bear if we have to. As time goes on, however, I think as a species, we're becoming softer. We're losing our resilience. We have been seduced and softened by our luxury. I was reading a book a couple of years ago called Children of the Yellow Emperor, about the overseas Chinese, how they left their homeland and settled in other countries, often migrating with the hope of making a fortune and returning to their homeland to die in the land of their ancestors. And the suffering that these migrants underwent, and the accounts of the suffering, brought tears to my eyes many times. Many of them never made it back to China. They were exploited and persecuted and ill-treated in many countries. Your ancestors. It is a good thing to venerate our ancestors. Probably many of you have an ancestral altar at home on which you burn joss sticks and candles. It is a good thing because we owe our ancestors so much. We cannot really imagine how much they suffered and struggled and sacrificed in order to bequeath something to their descendants. We owe so much to the people who have gone before us. Almost everything that we have, including our language, which is such an important part of our lives, we owe to our ancestors. We have very little that we have made or really earned ourselves. We owe so much. And we must think about this, because as the Buddha said, the present is the result of the past. We are the results of what we were. We will be the results of what we are. And it is only by taking stock of the past that we can make any sense of the present and go forward into the future. We cannot change the past, but we can learn from it, and we must. And if we do not learn from the past, all the suffering thereof is a waste. And that is the tragedy. Not so much the suffering itself, but the fact that we don't learn much from it. That is the tragedy. If we learn something from our suffering, then it is not in vain. But if we learn nothing, sayang. All the suffering of the past, of all the people who ever lived, stands there, ready to be used, to be learned from, to help us on our journey, so that maybe we will not have to suffer so much as those who went before us. And so that our suffering in turn can be useful to others who come after. We are only a link in a chain, not the beginning and not the end. And if we can perceive the continuation, then our lives may have meaning. That we're leaving something behind in this world after we go on for others. Something positive. Has anyone got a question for me at this point?
Just now, Venerable Abhinyana started his talk to tell you what to do when you are going to die. But he did not tell you actually what to do. He explained about life and death and the Buddha's way of renunciations, enlightenment, and the nature of death. That's what I ask, what to do. Now, Christians and others come and advise you, believe in God, develop your faith in God. Then He will wash away all your sins and send you to heaven. And as Buddhist, what are you going to do? Not only once, on many occasions, I have mentioned this for you to remember. Otherwise you create some sort of disappointments or frustrations or confusion in your mind at that time. Because you do not consider, you never think deeply what the Buddha taught us. You believe what people talk about Buddhism. You cannot learn Buddhism from the people. Now listen to this again. What is mentioned in Maha Samaya Sutra. This is the answer to the question raised by Venerable Abhinyana just now. Ye keci buddhang saranang gatate nate gamissanti apaya pahaya manasang dehang devakayang paripuresanti. That is the most important saying in Buddhism. But you never remember. You never learn. What does he say? When we are going to die, ekeci buddhang saranang gatati. We take refuge in the Buddha, recall the Buddha into our mind. If you cannot recite, keep this in your mind. The name of the Buddha. Namo Buddha. In any language, not in Pali or English. Invite the Buddha into your mind. While holding this, while taking refuge in the Buddha, if we die, nate gamissanti apaya. Although we have done certain bad karma, if we die while holding this Buddhang Saranang Gacchami in our mind, nate gamissanti apayam, we cannot go to hell. Remember this. If we die with that in our mind, we cannot go to hell, although we have committed certain bad deeds. Then what will happen? Pahaya manusang deha. When the life is departed from this body, devakayang paripuresanti. Go and join with the devas. That means in heaven. But you do not know this. Then you can ask, all right, why not we take God into our mind, believe in God? There is no difference. There is. According to the Buddha, there is a difference. Sakra is the king of the god. The Buddha says, many people take refuge in the king of
moho, bhir, uchanti, vitrasi, palaya. The nature of Sakra. The Buddha says, Sakra is not free from craving. Sakra is not craving free from fear. Sakra is not free from ignorance. He is not free from fear. He is not perfect. No doubt he has certain worldly powers. He is not holy he is not perfect. Then the Buddha says, Tathagato bhikkhave arhang samma sambuddho vitarago, vitadoso, vitamoho, abhiru achamvi anuttarasyapam. The Buddha is completely free from craving, free from anger, free from ignorance. He has no fear in his mind. He is perfect. That is why, by taking refuge in the Buddha, we get the chance to be born in a fortunate state. Now the difference is this. Christians says, when you believe in God at that time, He will wash away all your sins, send you to heaven. Buddhism cannot say that, because it is impossible. There is nobody in this universe who can wash away your sins. The bad karmas that you have committed remain. But just because we die while holding that belief, faith, devotion, confidence in the Buddha, we get the chance to be born in a certain fortunate state. All the bad karmas remain in the waiting list. No one can wash it. During that lifetime, in the next life, we make more and more meritorious deeds. Again you can go higher and higher and higher. Still bad karmas have no chance to catch you. In the next life also you do more and more good karmas and cultivate your spiritual development. Again you go higher and higher and higher. One day you will attain sainthood, arahanthood, nirvana. Bad karmas have no chance to catch you. Do you know that? Have you ever thought? This is the method introduced by the Buddha. Those people at the last moment, when people come and tell you, don't worry, believe in God, He will wash away all your sins, you can go to heaven. People believe it. But you do not know this. Then you can develop confidence, hopes and confidence in your mind. But you have to do that when you are conscious. If you are unconscious, you cannot do it. When you are unconscious, what will happen? Your subconscious mind projects all the good and bad karma just like a film show, working one after the other. The last thought which appears before our death become or take the responsibilities to condition to create another life. So we do not know whether it is good karma or bad karma because all are mixed up in the subconscious mind. That is why it is necessary for you to recall, to remember, to remind all the good deeds that you have done, all the good karmas that you have done. Then the mind gets used to it. Then the chances are there for you to get the good karmic thoughts in the mind at the dying moment, although we have committed certain bad karma. No one can live in this world without creating either good karma or bad karma. This is the nature of our worldly life. Even after attaining the first stage of sainthood, Sotapan, still they can create certain bad karma. After second stage, Sotapan, Anagami, Sakadagami are then stop. Below that level, people are subject to create certain bad karmas. This is the nature of worldly life. But we should not create disappointment or frustration. Be wise, develop confidence, then try to train your mind to create some good thoughts, good karmic thoughts. You are doing lots of good deeds, religious work, services, meritorious deeds. Recall, remember, when you are free, when you are relaxing, when you are sleeping, instead of thinking all this rubbish, think all the good deeds that you have done. Then you can sleep peacefully. No bad dreams also. Yes, it is up to you to ask questions.
So, Venerable, what was your question again? Yes, the idea of God as a consolation sounds very nice. If only it were true. However, I think we reach a point where we can no longer accept such an idea. We let go of that and go on. And sometimes it's very hard to do this, because then we find ourselves very often alone. It's hard to be alone. But we must strengthen ourselves with Dharma. This is where we draw the strength from, to go on and to be alone. In one way, we're always alone, but in another way, we're never alone. So we draw strength from the Dharma by understanding the nature of life. We develop self-reliance, psychological self-sufficiency. Physically, we can never be self-sufficient. We depend upon others. But mentally, we can be. What we're looking for, peace, freedom, happiness, enlightenment, are mental qualities, not physical or material qualities. It is to be found, or they are to be found, in the mind. Somehow, we have had the good fortune to stumble across this Dharma. But we must put it to use. Don't expect it to be like a magic charm, abracadabra or open sesame. It won't work like that. It works through understanding. This brings about a transformation. If we have confidence in the Dharma and in the Buddha, at the end, these things can stand ready to serve us. But if we have no experience of them, it is very difficult to have this confidence, because confidence, trust, or saddha, true faith, as opposed to mere belief, is born of experience. Belief, we don't require experience for that. It's something quite different. We believe when we do not know. But faith arises from knowledge, from experience. So if we have this kind of faith, then when we're on our deathbed, if we are on a deathbed and don't die very suddenly out on the street or get shot or something like that, then we can summon up this faith. We can think of these positive qualities. We can draw strength therefrom. But we must acquire this faith before then. Not expect it to arise unproduced at the end without having done anything for it. So these Dharma talks that you've been attending for so long, each one should have inspired you and given you some insight into reality, which accumulates. And if you get only a single sentence from a whole Dharma talk that inspires you and helps you to understand something more than you did before, then it will not have been a waste of time. Some people appear to think that maybe by being present at a Dharma talk, without even listening or paying attention, that merit is acquired thereby. And one time when I was giving a talk somewhere, a group of ladies near the front were chatting away happily, even though my talk was being translated so that everyone could understand. And they were creating a disturbance. Finally, I said to them, "Ting putong, I can't hear you, speak louder." It is better not to attend the Dharma talk if you're going to chatter while other people are trying to listen. You won't make merit that way. You'll make demerit. So it is not something magic that brings about an effect by itself. It is the attention that we pay which enables the Dharma to work in us and produce an effect. But it must be understood. It must be received and understood. By itself, it may be just gibberish. So there must be a meeting of minds. And then it will be worthwhile. I'm happy to see that no one has been chatting away this evening while I've been talking. Thank you very much. I think perhaps you're all quite well disciplined in this respect.
Still you did not ask any questions? And just now, yes.
I didn't quite catch your question. Could you speak a little louder, please? Such actions are not uncaused. We cannot speak or act without first thinking of it. We may not be aware of our thought processes leading up to our actions, but that doesn't mean they're not there. Now, very often we make, as human beings, with our laws, we make some allowance for the actions performed by loonies, psychos as you call them. I was saying last time I was here that because of our conditioning and because we do not have free will, therefore we cannot hold ourselves or others completely responsible for our actions. But I forgot to include that ignorance of the law does not excuse us from the effects. Just because you don't know, if you don't know that fire burns, doesn't prevent you from getting burned. There will still be an effect. But the act of killing, the karma of killing, is only complete when 5 factors are there. First, there must be a living being. Secondly, there must be the knowledge, the recognition that it is a living being. Thirdly, there must be the intention or the desire to kill it. Fourthly, there must be the action made to kill it. And fifthly, the living being must die as a result of that action. Then only, if these 5 factors are complete and together, is the karma of killing made. If any of these factors is absent, the karma of killing has not been made. Even if the being dies, another kind of karma would have been made, but not the karma of killing. Now, driving along, certainly, under the wheels of our vehicles, many insects would die. Sometimes frogs, lizards, snakes, birds, and so on, sometimes even people. Does anyone here drive a car with the intention of killing ants and cockroaches and beetles on the road? They die, but you haven't killed them because you didn't intend to kill them. Now, if you ask your children to wash up and a dish gets broken, you would probably scold your child and blame him for breaking the dish. Would this be fair? You broke the dish? No. The dish was broken. The child or the person did not break it because they didn't have the intention to break it. There's a difference here. The intention is most important. I think I understand, but before I mentioned about different types of karma. We have personal karma, we have group karma. Now, we do not know why we were born, where we were born. We really do not know. In this life, I was born as an Angmolang, and you were born as Ormolang. Why? We do not know. Huh? I was born as a European, you were born as Asians. We do not know. Perhaps next life, I will be born as an Ormolang, and you will be born as Angmolang. Huh? It's not sure. Do we have any control over it? Do we choose to be born where we were born? I don't think so. Because if we had any choice about it, I can't imagine anyone choosing to be born in places like Rwanda or Somalia or Ethiopia. You know? It happens to us. Why? We do not know. So we say, it must be because of our karma. Now, at our level, this is just a belief, like the Christians believing in God. Still, we do not know. It's a belief. It's a concept. And it's a concept that I accept myself, even though I do not know for sure if it is a reality. But it is a concept that sounds quite reasonable to me, and more reasonable, in fact, than a God who appoints some people to be born here and some people to be born there. Moreover, I find that it helps us to deal with the realities of the present. If we can say, I do not know why this is happening to me right now, and I don't like it, I'm not happy about it, but it is. It must be a result of my karma. Okay, I accept. And then, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? It means that we will have to assess the situation to see what we can do with it. But we will not be able to do this until we first accept it. Okay, I accept it. It doesn't mean to say we just give up and lie down and die complacently. We accept it before we can do anything with it or about it. And if we can say to ourselves, it is not good, it is not bad, but somehow, even though I do not understand, it is right. Okay, it appears differently. And it will prevent us, to a great extent, from complaining about it and feeling sorry for ourselves, as we often do, and saying, it's not fair, I don't deserve this. If we can accept it and say, okay, somehow this must be a result of my karma before, I think that is a good thing, even if we do not know for sure that there is a law of karma. But I think we have to be very careful about thinking of others in the same way and saying, oh, what is happening to them is their karma, as if we know, because really we do not know. We only presume. So it is a concept that we must use to help us to deal with, especially with the difficulties of life, personal difficulties. It helps us to come to terms with things and to deal with them. And if you can say, I don't know why I was born here, but I'm part of this situation, this society, so whatever the society is going through, next week you have the election, you're part of this, you know, and so you participate as wisely as you can and try to bring about positive change. You can say, oh, I don't like this environment or this society, I'm going to emigrate and become, change my nationality, or become a citizen of another country. Well, you can do that too. Become part of something else. I was born in England, and I cannot deny that. I do deny, however, that it makes me English. You cannot tell by looking at me that I was born in that part of the world that by common consent we call England. I could even have been born here in KL and still be an Angmolang. Huh? I found something bigger than being English when I stumbled across Buddhism. Being English or a member of any nationality is too small for me. It is a prison. A mental prison, because we identify with these things. And nationality is purely an idea, much more so than race. Race, or sub-race, we can see the difference colour of our skin, the colour of our hair and eyes and so on. It's not really important. We make it important, much more important than it is. And whenever I go to give blood in the university hospital here and fill in the form where it asked race, I always put human. And they've never objected to this yet. I don't know what they think. Maybe they will change it after I've gone. That's up to them. They can do that if they want. But they've never objected to it yet. Actually, they should be concerned about the type of my blood, not the colour of my skin. And when a person needs a blood transfusion, I'm pretty sure, unless he's a Bodo, that he wouldn't say, what race of person does this blood come from? What religion? What nationality? If it's not the same race or religion as nationality as me, come out. Don't want. It is the blood type that they should be concerned with. So I found something bigger than nationality. I was staying in a Chinese temple in Melbourne for some time, and I tried to point out to the people there who had assembled from many countries, and not just one country, that they were free of one obstacle. Outside that temple flew no nationalistic flag. One step in the right direction. And if we can use such an understanding, we can go beyond other obstacles too. Obstacles that prevent us from seeing things clearly. Obstacles that divide us into and segregate us. Race, religion, and so on. If we could perceive reality, it would unite us instead of divide us. We're divided because we do not perceive reality.
The direct answer to your questions. There are three aspects. First thing, lunatic. Second thing, unintentional. Third one, environment. So we have to give the direct answer from the Buddha's teaching. According to the Buddha, we are all mad people. Sabbe putujjana ummattaka. All those putujjana means those who have not attained arahanta. Below that level, all are mad people. We are all mad. Yes, no questions about it. Now, the belief that some people maintain, when mad people commit evil or bad karma, they will be free from the bad reaction. They are wrong. Mad people also have craving, they also have anger, they also have illusion. They have more illusion, hallucination. Because of that they commit evil. It is not an excuse. So they are not free from the bad reaction, although they have more illusions. They lose their sense of reasoning because of that illusion. The second part of the question is unintentional. Yes, unintentional means without implanting, creating the idea that I want to do this. So whatever we do accidentally or unintentionally cannot create either good karma or bad karma. But that action itself becomes a karma for us to face the consequences within this lifetime or immediately. These are under worldly conditions. There is nothing for us to carry forward for the next life. Accident. You knock down and kill a man unintentionally. Although you did not create any bad karma, people may come and beat you, kill you, burn your motor car. This is the nature of worldly condition, although you have not created any bad karma for you to carry for the next. So unintentional action can create the good and bad effect instantly or immediately or within this lifetime, but they are not under religious category. And the other one is environment. Assume you are born among Eskimo. For your survival, every day you have to go for catching fish. But it is not an excuse for you to say nothing wrong, because I have no other choice. That is why it is mentioned in the Buddha's teaching, Patirupa desa vasocha pubbecha katapunyata. Those who are born in certain areas, countries, localities where they can live peaceful, contented, happy, respectable, noble life, they are blessed people. Pubbecha katapunyata, because they have done some good merits to be born in certain areas. And those who are born in certain areas, certain countries, certain families, where there are a lot of evil, wicked, immoral, cruel things, naturally, they also join with them. So it is not an excuse. Our previous karmas are responsible for creating that environment. This is the direct answer to your question.
His body is going to die, and Cora takes some religion to transfer him so that his father won't die. Why?
Did you turn it off? We are afraid of death largely because it is the unknown to us. And in recent years, there have been many cases researched and documented of people being declared clinically dead. That is, the heart has stopped, breathing has stopped, brain waves have stopped, all signs of life are absent, and they've been declared clinically dead. And after some time, they revive and tell of their out-of-the-body experiences. There have been many cases of this recently, documented, researched, and from different points of view, that is, from people of different cultures and backgrounds and religions. So they report their experiences in different ways, but they all seem to be talking about the same thing. That when physical death takes place, the mind or consciousness separates itself from the body and drifts upwards, they say, into the sky or somewhere, where they encounter a bright light and experience a great sense of peace. And some people, because of their religious upbringing, describe this light as an angel. Others do not personify it. There's something abstract to them. But they all say they feel very peaceful, and they want to remain in that condition and do not want to come back to a diseased body or a smashed up body or something like that. They want to stay there. But, of course, we know only about the cases of people who revive. We do not know about the people who go beyond that stage. And they are informed, you must go back. You're not ready to die yet. So back they come. But many of them say that having experienced physical death once, they are never afraid to die again. And they're filled with a sense of the importance of living, and living with love and care. So, having experienced it, they're not afraid to die again. Therefore, our fear of death is largely because of the ignorance of not knowing what it's about. We do not remember dying before in our previous lives. We suppose that we have lived before, but we do not remember. And people say, how come if we've lived so many times before, do we not remember our past lives? Well, do you remember what you dreamed about last night? Just last night and you don't remember. It's not strange that we do not remember our previous lives when we do not remember the dreams of just last night. So it is the fear of the unknown, the ignorance. And if we were able to know, then we would not fear so much. Was that your question? Yeah? Ben would like to say something?
So there are three reasons why we are scared about death or why we don't like to die. First thing, we do not know what will happen to us after our death. Therefore we are scared. Second thing, we have very strong attachment, love, affection towards so many things. Our family, our husband, our wife, our children, our money, our property, our enjoyment. How can we leave all these things? How can we go away? That is actually the main reason, our craving for existing worldly things. We don't like to depart. We don't like to go away from them by leaving them behind. Third reason, we do not know anything about death. What is death? How does it take place? Whether it is miserable or painful. And that ignorance of death creates fear. Death is not actually a very dangerous thing, or death does not create suffering. Mind creates suffering when we develop fear of death. Otherwise, death cannot create any suffering. Then, when three things separate from our body, death takes place. And you can understand what is death. Ayu, Usmaja, Vinyana. These three things. Ayu means amongst the 11 kinds of karmas that we accumulate, one particular karma, which is called Janaka karma, which condition or produce or create another existence. There is a period, time limit, according to that particular karma, for how long the maximum lifespan, either as human beings or animals or devas or brahmas or spirits or ghosts or devil, there's a period. That particular karma is responsible for that. When that karma is extinguished, evaporated, one of the reasons or one of the causes of our death. Second reason is the heat energy amongst the four elements, Pathavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, heat energy sustain, maintain all the other elements and energies in this body. As soon as heat energy separated from the body, the other elements also dissolve, disintegrate, cannot work together, no binding factor. That is why after 24 hours the body becomes decomposed, dirt, smelly, because the element separate, no heat energy. And the last one is Vinyana, consciousness. Mental energy. Mental energy can remain although the elements turn into pieces, because no one can destroy energy. No one can destroy what we call gravity. No one can destroy electron. No one can destroy magnet. These are natural energies. So the life energy also, just like one of them, but related to our mind, deals with the mind. Mental process, life process, combined together. Without depending on elements, these processes can exist. So when that consciousness also departs, separated from this body, then the death takes place. Otherwise, death cannot take place. So it is due to lack of this understanding. We create our own imagination, fear, worries, confusion. That's why the knowledge is important. We must know what is birth, what is life, what is death. And then there's nothing to it. I think getting late, before to conclude for the sharing of merits. Right. Imina punya kammena upajjaya gunottara acariyo prakaraca mata pita piyamamang suriyo candi maharaja gunavanta narapice Brahma Maharaja Indaca Lokapalaca Devata Yamo Nitta Manusaca Majjata Virikapica Sabbe Satta Sukhiyanto Punyani Pakatani Me Sukhan ceti vidang dentu Kipang papeta omatang Imina punya kammena Imina uddisena ce Kipang sulabe ce Tannu padana cetanang Ye santani hina dhamma Yavo nibbanato mamang nassantu sabbadaeva yatto jato bhave bhave uju citto satipanyo salleko viriya vamina mahalabantu nokasang tunco viriye sune Buddhadi pavaro nato dhammo nato varuttamo nato pacceka sambuddho sangho nato taro Esottamānubhāvena māropāsaṁ labhantu mā. So I understand Reverend will be leaving for UK in a few days' time, isn't it? We wish him good health and very peaceful life and pleasant journey and invite him to visit us again and give a few more talks. Thank you very much, sir.